Our next speaker, I've known for a long time. Brenda.
I'm an addict named Brenda.
Hi, Brenda.
I love the New England Regional Convention more than you know. And I'm really, I have a committee badge, but I'm really not on the committee because NERC doesn't, it's in their practice not to have committee members speak, and I think that that's a way to get the fellowship involved. So I'm sorry for that confliction, but David is also an honorary member of NERC and has served on many, many NERCs, not recently, but I've done a lot of service with you, and, you know, and thank you. Thank you for sharing, James. First, I'd like to thank anybody who came here because I asked them to, because I really felt, you know, like there was a time in my recovery where if I was speaking, I wouldn't tell anybody, and you know, and today I want that support. I desire that support, and I appreciate every one of you that showed up. So, still all these years later, still don't feel worthy sometimes, you know. Anyways, so I'm sitting in this room, and it dawned upon me about halfway through James sharing that I think the last time I was in this room, there was a meeting called Loss and Recovery, I believe, and it was a really good meeting. My first sponsor, Carrie M., had come up from Connecticut, and she was in a wheelchair, and she was in this room, and I was so grateful to see her because she was by far and large the most significant person in my recovery to date. And the other thing I'd like to ask is there anybody here who's their first convention? Yeah. Welcome.
Yeah.
Isn't it just fucking overwhelming? I'm overwhelmed, you know, and I've been to a few of these. Anyway, so, you know, I was an addict of the hopeless variety. I used everything that I possibly could. I got here broken. I was homeless. I was living on the streets and doing what I had to do to get my next hit. And it wasn't pretty, and I wasn't too pretty either. So anyway, so I got here, and I was told that if you want what we have to offer, then you have to be willing what we, you know, to do what we do. And I saw this firecracker of a person in Carrie, and she had this positive, like, energy just, like, flying everywhere, and she was happy, and she laughed a lot, and I was attracted. It was an attractive thing. And I asked her to be my sponsor, and she said, if I'm going to be your sponsor, that you need to be willing to do these things. You need to call me every day. You need to read and write on the steps, and then we get together and go over them, and you will also do service work. And I was desperate, and I had a little baby girl that was 9 months old, and I was so afraid that I was going to go back out, that she, you know, that I would lose her. And I was afraid. So, you know, and I also didn't want to not please this woman who I thought was just, you know, some goddess that had shown up. So we started doing that. And one of the things she said to me was, you know, there are two wrong ways to do the steps. One is not at all, and one is without, and the other is without a sponsor, without somebody who has the experience, strength, and hope to guide you. So you can take out this book and start writing on it, but like, you know, like if I just write on that and use my old information, like I'm screwed. That's, you know, that's my opinion. Like I'm just using the same old information and confusing myself more. And the other thing that I think was very helpful in my recovery was when I first got here, I was like, I saw those 8 and 9 steps. I saw that step 8 and 9, like making a list and making amends, and I was not doing that. Like that was out. Like people had screwed me over. I wasn't having any of that. And, that's why steps 8 and 9 are where they are, And certainly there are the enforced amends that are brought upon you, usually by the criminal justice system. And, and I have this story about, this amends. And, when I was active, I had, a couple of felony charges. I had stolen some gold from this gentleman who had a gold store and, got caught. And so I had to pay him back. And, I was single parent, on welfare, didn't have a lot of money, but I paid like $10 a month or whatever it was I paid, I don't know. And I paid it consistently. And it was time for probation to be up. And the courts were like, you need to give us all the money now. And this man, who I didn't even know, wrote a letter saying she's done exactly what she's supposed to be doing. I would most certainly allow her to have as much time as she needs to pay because she's been paying me consistently, and he came to bat for me, and so I didn't get any, I didn't have to go back to court. And this man, I don't know, I had his address, so it was Christmas time, and so I was like, I'm going to send him a Christmas card. This was very early on in my recovery, and so I started sending my Christmas cards, and every year we send each other Christmas cards. To this day, it is like the best thing in the world, and every time I get it, I'm like, oh, this is so awesome. And that was one of those enforced amends, but 1, 2, and 3 are my foundation. Without those, without support group, without surrender, without my higher power, I don't have a whole heck of a lot of chance to work on these steps. So when we finally got to 8, make a list and become willing. I said to my sponsor, I'm like, well, I started writing the list, and and some of these people I couldn't remember what their names were, because I had been, I was like blackout mess when I was using. Like, I didn't remember half of the stuff I did. And then I didn't remember half of the people, attached to it. So I wrote up this list, and my sponsor, I said, well, my daughter's father, like, I'm not willing to make amends to him. He broke my arm, he did this, he did that, play the victim. And she was like, you make the list first. It's the first part. You're just making the list. You don't become willing till later. It says make the list. Just make the list. And so I made my list. And and what I learned in that process was just making the list is part of the process of becoming willing. And I met with her, and we went over everything, and we talked about what the amends. She told me what my amends would be for people, because I still, like an old boyfriend or something. Should I go meet up with them? My ability to see all that clearly, I really needed some guidance, and she was so we went down through the list, and she's like, direct amends, letter to God, direct amends, keep coming to meetings, bake some cookies and go drop them off at the shelter. Just like these things that she came up with, and I was like, okay. And I wrote a lot of letters to God, and, the people that were at the top of my list were certainly my mother, my stepfather, and, a variety of other people. And, I had, when I was active, I had stolen my mother's rings to get high, and, so part of my amend process was to get with her and to go over that, and I bought her a ring. I bought her a garnet ring, just because I felt like that was part of my peace offering. And I took her out to dinner, and I talked about it, and she, was very gracious about it. Now, before I did that, I had planned the day because my family's up in Maine still, and my I had written a letter to my stepfather because he had passed, and there were also a variety of other people that were in there, including this one boyfriend who literally kicked the shit out of me on a regular basis. He was a black belt, third-degree black belt, and he used to kick the shit out of me. We were paranoid and we were crazy, and we had weapons and we were crazy, and so I lived that life. And you know, and I had written up a letter of amends to him, and for my part, because I was there. If I'm there, I got 50%. You know what I mean? Like, truthfully. So I went to my father's grave and my stepfather's grave, and I sat down and read him the letter. And so I'm getting in the car and I'm going back to my mom's to meet up with her so I could pick her up and take her out. And I'm driving around the corner, and there's the gravestone of that boyfriend. And he had died from stuff related to active addiction. And I was like, it just like freaked me right out. I was like goosebumps, you know, like I'm like, well, I guess I got to do it now, you know. And so I stopped and I talked to him about, you know, not being a good girlfriend and, you know, being, you know, in the grips of addiction and, you know, my part in the whole chaos of the relationship. And then I felt like, and the other thing that I did was I was like, I kind of like talked to both my stepfather and to Danny, and I was like, would you like be my wing people for going with my mother? Because I was really afraid. And so I kind of like envisioned that they were carrying me to do this amends with my mom. And so I did that, and it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. And you know, over the years, I ended up moving on in the steps because, you know, like people present themselves when they're supposed to. You know, like somebody's going to hop up, you know, whenever. And I remember being at Back to Basics. And one of the things that I always did before I made any amends was I talked to my sponsor because I wanted to make sure that I was on the right side of the street regarding everything and that I wasn't doing it to make myself look better or puff myself up. And so I had, gone Back to Basics, pitched my tent, and sure enough, somebody who's on my list pitches their tent right across from me, and I'm like, ah! And so I'm like trying to get a hold of my sponsor. I can't reach her, and so I did the next best thing was I found Bobby H. and I talked to him about it. I'm like, what do I, should I do this now? Should I not do this now? And and I sought out some guidance from somebody who had experience with this, and it's very freeing. There's still amends to be made. There's I still. Probably the person that I continue to need to make amends to is myself. It's gotten a lot better, but I'm grateful. I am so grateful. I've been looking forward to this convention so much, and I can't believe how life's ended up. I really can't. I am in one of the best places that I've ever been in. And there have been many times when I've been here sobbing and I haven't been in the best place that I've ever been in. So, and I give credit to the steps and I don't know. That's about it. Thanks.
Really good to hear you.
Thank you.